All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Market so far here on the day and on the week is a little bit what I feared it might be in terms of just overall lack of movement. We had a little bit of move on Monday, and then the small gap up on Tuesday, and then just kind of sit here in terms of the overall market. And not to be unexpected given what's going on out there, or the lack of what's going on out there. There are just very few catalysts, and it's one where I do think the market will continue to get bought on dips, but is going to need those dips to make stronger legs, to the upside. We have very few stocks that are, really in trend mode. A few trying to emerge or having emerged into trend mode. Many of those in tech. Amazon decided to pierce the upper band yesterday, and is kind of rolling up and through that upper band as it really looks like it wants to go to 2,000. I priced out Amazon calls a couple times this morning, and they're they're a little more pricey than what I can play right now in this little mini challenge. But if we get a little pullback on Amazon coming into next week, it could easily be one of my first trades for the upcoming 100K challenge. Just very similar market conditions to yesterday. Each day, a few things pop up a little bit more. Some things lag. Today it's small caps that are outperforming while semiconductors are lagging, albeit they're holding up really well considering the report this morning. We have transports dropping a little bit today, but take a look at the volume or total lack thereof in a lot of stocks that are pulling back today. This is a very big theme. They're pulling back, but it's because there are just no buyers, and but there's no real selling enthusiasm with a lot of names that are out there. You still have the headliners like a Tesla, and as there's kind of this call for Elon Musk to put up or shut up, basically say, hey, where's the buyout money coming from? And so that story continues to be ongoing. But in terms of new signals, coming in, in terms of Katie and showing different trend potential. Amazon is a trend rider signal, but trend rider signals are only mid cap and small cap names, not the large cap names. But Amazon has all those principles of a trend rider. We have some things like a CCL with a 3-7 crossover today, but not enough to qualify as a Katie signal. We have something like a CenturyLink with a 3-7 crossover, but you can see what's going on here, and not exactly a trend or an emerging trend signal here for it. So a lot of that out there in the market today. Now, I have one position on the board with Valero, and you can see the volume. It's going to be really tough to get anywhere close to yesterday's volume here on Valero. It's kind of right there in that area where, I wanted to hold, right? So it's going to kind of sit here. If it closes here, it's closing right on that area that I want to hold from when I entered. The option that I have has not responded well to the consolidation or, the slight down here on the option. There's been some IV bleed, but there's also been, some delta bleed here on it. That said, the average true range on Valero is enough to make it so that option triples on one small move up. It doesn't need a whole lot. So I've kind of debated today, do I add a little bit more to it? Do I pull it off? I still really like the chart a lot, but I think the overall consolidation risk has just simply risen, and have to acknowledge that. But you can kind of see the gap down. We get a secondary push lower here. If we could close around this level or back up above the 7-hour moving average, it'd be a nice sign. But overall, if we're able to close, above 115 here, I will most likely hold it into the close here and, take that risk into tomorrow. I take that risk simply because if we come and put on if we come and put on some support retracements here, and come in right here to this move right here, that continued after I got in, but decided it wanted to correct shortly after. And let me get fibs here, not quant lines. There we go. But you can see we're right down into the 62% retracement, right down into the lower Bollinger here on the hourly. So a very compelling spot to be a buyer. But do I want to add some exposure right here? Not yet. Not yet. I do think this is something that if we're talking about a gap up tomorrow, it's worth buying in, and it could easily have one of those nice little 250, 220 up days here for Valero. So most likely I will hold it into the close, but I'll make that decision a little bit closer to the close. But if you look at it, it's above 115. I'm most likely holding it. Doesn't mean I'm going to sell it under 115, but I probably won't consider selling it unless it closes below 115 here. All right, so going to hold that. I've looked at some things like some Exxon. Do I go step in here? But I look at something like an Exxon, and just like we talked about this morning, closes above the prior day's high. There's my opportunity to get in. I was really interested in Halliburton yesterday, and Halliburton did something yesterday that it just hasn't done. We have seen Halliburton underperform oil, and days where oil goes up, Halliburton's gone down. But yesterday, oil was down pretty big, and Halliburton actually ended in the green. Now, it was the first kind of time that we've seen something like that, and so it called my attention, and then I kind of watch it today, and I go, oh, my goodness, man, this thing just can't catch a break at all. Today we have oil, we have oil flat, and, Halliburton down 1%. It continues to just trade like a dead stock, like a dead company here, which is, not overly surprising given the, given this sell-off and given the earnings report. I do expect that, in the 13F filings that we'll be seeing, that we will see that a lot of funds or several funds have liquidated large positions on Halliburton. And if we see those, and those funds, it's reported that those funds have liquidated large positions, and we see a sell-off because of that, I think that will be the opportunity to buy into Halliburton aggressively. And for me, that's pretty much what I'm looking for, unless I get an absolutely picture perfect, technical signal here with it. So, again, a lot for me personally, as far as how I trade, this week is kind of materializing the way I kind of feared it might, come Monday or Sunday afternoon when I was taking a look at where things were, where just not a lot of high probability signals, and even with some of them, the risk reward not all that great. And so it's one where, I'm going to continue to kind of, step softly here. I'll run with Valero, and do really like the way some things are setting up for possible entries here into maybe even into tomorrow, depending on how things move. But I don't expect that we'll see a lot of the setups emerge until until next week. Keep an eye on something like a Pepsi here. We had an interesting topping signal here, and we get this strong volume, okay, that basically marks the top. We come and retest. We try to break out, and on high volume, big nasty reversal. Where I stand with Pepsi. I think it's incredibly overvalued, but the bullish thesis is still out there. But I would be very surprised if we don't see a retrace here on Pepsi. And but I don't like the entry point right here. I do think it needs a little more consolidation / uptick before that occurs. So anyway, those are a few of the things that I'm looking at overall. I was asked if I bought my put spread on the IWM yet that I had talked about the other day, and I went out and priced it out again here today. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but today it's getting into the price range that I'm a little more interested. If we come in here to IWM, we talked about these Septembers, and coming down into this kind of 160, 159 area. Being able to get it for 10, 15 cents. Now, if we pop up to the 162, 161 area, I get about the same price. So I do like that. I will most likely, look at it again tomorrow before I put it on. And the simple reason has everything to do with what I talked about before, and that is volume. The market's not going to get crushed. The market's not going to go through an August swoon unless we start to see a real heavy pickup in volume. And just so far, we have not seen that. In fact, we're actually seeing volumes falling off even further. So kind of middle July type of days here in the market. And, even a little bit less range in terms of, the overall S&P 500 here. We continue to see a low participation rate. Which is about the most bearish thing I can say about this market in terms of the number of stocks hitting new highs versus new lows on any given day. In fact, we had more stocks hitting new highs back in May and June when the market was significantly lower than we have here today. So that continues to be a little bit of a worry point, but, in terms of the volume elements of the market, aggregate volume elements, the bulls still remain strongly in control, and with no sign of slowing here. With that. So, anyway, I'll make a decision on Valero here into the close. MarketVibe today still a 7. No key signal or trend rider signal as it sits for TM signals, but there is a little bit of there's a trend rider bullish signal on Amazon. But that is a large cap name. But being involved in tech tends to work a little bit better there. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a great one, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.